Hey, Anthony, welcome back to the show. Audience members, we've got Anthony Franco, one of my really good friends. He's got a podcast. If you haven't heard it, it's How to Founder, and it's a great podcast. Excited about having you on again. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Anthony.
When we look at today, we're going to talk about how to exit your company. You're either going to exit by bankruptcy, or you're going to exit by being taken over. You're going to exit by retiring. How do we structure the exit strategy for a founder and owner of a company in a way that you control gracefully? We're going to jump into that.
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody, you have to exit your business at one point in your life. You will exit your business. Do you want control over that, or do you want life to dictate to you how that happens?
Well, and I think that's one that all of us founders know that, hey, somewhere there, I'm put all this work in. I'd like to have a payoff at the very end of it, right? It's kind of this, this machine that we've created. If we're doing it properly, we're creating a nice cash flow machine for ourselves. And then somewhere we'd like to see the ability to go, all right, I've been a warrior long enough. Growing a business is always, chewing glass and looking over the bits and lots of work, no matter who you are. You're always dealing with some struggle, but somewhere you'd like to find a way to exit it. Maybe you have an idea to do something else, but how do you start to even think about exiting this? Most of us can't even comprehend the idea that someday I could exit this thing gracefully.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many owners aren't thinking about the exit. They're coming in and running their business and going home, and they've hit a routine after 5, 10, 30 years. And then at some point they're like, I'm just too tired to do this anymore. Or they get sick, or God forbid something else happens to them where they're just gone. You like I said, you're going to exit your business. The way to think about it is how, some founders just shut the doors, and that might be perfectly okay. It's like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Sorry to my employees, but it's over. So that's certainly one way to exit your business. And you being in control. Another way is something called an ESOP, and it's an employee owned, where you have to hire an attorney to do this, and it's kind of a legal. You have to jump through some legal hoops, but you can allow your employees to essentially buy your business from you using an ESOP. You can also, if your business is profitable enough, you can hire a broker, an M&A advisor, to help take your company to market. In any of those circumstances, it's best to be thinking about it at the minimum 2 years, ideally 5 years from when you're planning to exit.
I think that's the right 5 years, is it? Because I don't think there's a lot of structure to create, right? So those people that think that I can sell this tomorrow, you're fooling yourself, right? Maybe if you do, you're lucky, right? There are those that someone will come in and make you some crazy offer, and boom, you walk away. That's some sort of unicorn deal. But I think Anthony, what you're saying is exactly right, in that being able to structure my exit starts to take some work ahead of time. So, a lot of times I equate running a business to playing poker, right? You're playing. It depends on what the cards are dealing us, how long you want to play for. But there's times when I'm playing poker where I'm getting a bad hand, I'm just getting through. I just want to be able to keep playing poker, right? And then all of a sudden, right, I get the hands that I want. Now I can go all in. Now I can start to do, what I want, being able to kind of time that prep properly, and then go, oh, look at that. I've got trip aces sitting in my hand, right? And now I'm good. Now maybe it's time to go all in on that. But if I'm not around in business, if I'm not at the poker table, I'll never get the aces, right? Same thing with business. If you crap out during business, doing business, you're not there, and you never get to the exit strategy, that golden parachute that really helps you create a retirement that's worth having.
Yeah, I've never heard. There's all kinds of analogies for how to operate a business. I've never heard the poker analogy. Usually it's sports, which I don't sports analogies don't work, because there always has to be a winner and a loser in a sports in a game. And in business, it's like you can be the fourth best in your region and still have an incredible business. So, but the poker analogy is interesting. You got to be at the table in order to win.
Right. Well, and that's what happens. It just, and there are times where, you know, I think that's one of the hard parts about getting older in the business is that there's going to be ups and downs all the time. It's not like you get to a place in business where you ever get to coast, right? At least I've never experienced. I've never been able to see a spot where, you know, you make so much money, or you're always kind of growing, and then there's always an ebb and tide to the environment, the economy, to the people that you hire, the people that you're working with, and you know, if you get lazy, right, you'll be out of the game. You know, one of those will take you out. One of those, you know, so staying healthy as an owner, staying healthy as an entrepreneur, so that you can anticipate even the downtimes. Because look, no matter how good the times are today, there will be downtimes, right? And you got to anticipate the cards are going to go another way, and kind of plan that into your exit strategy, right? Plan that into, all right, how am I going to do this? How am I that ESOP program? Great. Yeah, that's great as long as things are going well. How are you going to handle it when things don't go well for them? Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so ironically, one of the best ways to get a good valuation for you, and when I say valuation, it's the money that somebody's going to pay you for your business based on, you know, your revenue, your profit, your market position, all of that. So one of the things that you need to do in order to get a better valuation is to make yourself not necessary for if you're going to want to exit the business and you're going to want to retire, whatever. I don't know what that word really means for most people, but I certainly don't know what it means for me. But if you want to retire, um, you have to get in the mindset of what the buyer is going to be buying. Right. And if you're saying I'm exiting the business and you're core critical to the business operating, and you're not going to be there, that buyer is going to be hesitant to give you a good dollar figure for that, because they have to replace you. And if you can work your requirement of being in the business slowly out of business, you're going to have a lot more interested buyers.
I think when you're core critical, you've bought yourself a job, right? You're not really a company. You essentially, you bought this job that you're kind of forced into to really create a company. You've got to be able to work your way out, and where the company can run itself. And look, there's all, and by the way, that changes hour by hour, day by day, people by people, you know, so, you know, as you're
developing. It doesn't mean that you can check out, right?
Yeah,
you don't check out.
Right.
It's just the way to think about that is if I, you know, if I go into a coma for 2 weeks, is the business going to run? Is the mechanisms is in place? Is the systems in place? Is operations going to run and know how? Does everybody know what to do if I'm gone for a couple weeks, or for a month? And if the business can do that and sustain itself, you have a good acquirable business.
I've done a couple of practice runs where I've done 30 and 45 day. Now I'm 28 years into it, so I've taken a couple of hiatuses where I just need to check out a little bit. And the truth is, it's kind of litmus test for the company, right? How does it do when I'm gone? Now, what's kind of funny is when it does better when you're gone, your ego goes on.
Yeah.
But that's the truth is that's really what you're looking for.
Whenever I go on a 2-week vacation, we always land a really big client, and it's just like, okay, maybe I need to leave more often.
It's funny how that happens, right? And sometimes it's kismet or something, but it's good. So let's dive into. All right, I want to start to create an exit set strategy, right? So here we get that we want to do this on our terms. Let's start to structure. What does that look like, and how do we get to exit gracefully?
Yeah. So no matter how you decide to exit, so if you decide to do an ESOP, if you think that you're going to hand it off to your next generation, to your son, to your nephew, to your daughter, you need to again structure the business so that it doesn't need you and that it has the systems in place to operate without you. The other thing that you need to have really dialed in is really clean books. So this is the most boring part of running a business is having to get in QuickBooks and make sure that all your expenses make sense, all your AP and AR is up to date, and just constantly manage that and review the books every single month before you close the books. Be involved in that and make sure it makes sense. The other thing that a lot of owners do is they'll kind of intermix. You buy a truck for yourself, and you mix in those quasi personal expenses with the business. You're going to want to slowly migrate out of that. Another thing that you want to look at is buyers, especially if your business would qualify for an SBA loan in order to acquire. They really go on tax returns. So if you're running your business to really severely mitigate your taxes, in other words, you're throwing as many expenses into the business as you can to show zero profit, well, it's gonna hurt you in selling your business, because the valuation's typically based on profitability, which is typically by the SBA seen through your tax returns. So keep that in mind as you're starting to navigate. You need at least 3 or 4 good years of solid tax returns that show profit. I know that might hurt, but if you're going to exit, you need to do that in order to qualify for that. Also, you need to ask. You need to put yourself in the buyer's chair. Why would I want to buy this business? And how can I, one, grow it? How, two, they're essentially going to borrow money to buy your business. So one of the things that you need to think about is, how much is it going to cost to buy me out? And two, can the business sustain the loan payments in order to pay back the buyer, right? So you need to start having these conversations, internal conversations, and mapping this out to understand what to expect from an acquirer.
And that takes, the structure of the contracts you have with the clients, the way that you put your deals together. if the SBA can see long-term agreements, long-term contracts with clients, it just starts to mitigate some of that risk for them. It makes it a lot more, it makes it a lot more valuable to the lender who's supporting that person and buying that.
A couple other things that they're going to be looking at is, if you have a lot of variability year for year, that makes the SBA really worried. So if you have an up year and then a down year, then an up year and a down year, that's not something they love. So it'll lower it'll lower the amount they're willing to lend for the business acquisition. The other thing is you mentioned it great, which you mentioned something that's absolutely true is, if you can get customer contracts, is that the kind of business that you have, great. But also, you don't want to have really high revenue concentration with one customer. So if 20% of your business comes from one customer, that's a risk. What if the customer walks when you walk?
That's right.
So try to diversifying revenue should be a goal before you exit.
I think, and that's what that ramp up time gives you.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting down with an expert that can go through this and start to really look at that ramp up and just start to go, all right, look, here's where, and you got to answer those tough questions, right? And if you're not willing to do that, you're probably not willing to do, that's part of your personal development as a leader, is to be able to look at, all right, I want to create an exit strategy. Let's go through all these tough questions. Hey, by the way, you're going to feel silly at first, right? Because you're not going to answer them right, and they're going to find out, oh, I got too much in one customer. Hey, I'm the center of the business. You're going to find some stuff you may or may not want to hear, but that's why you want some time to solve those, right? When you start to train people and start to work on diversifying, you start to really train yourself and your team, and you start to structure the company for what Anthony's talking about. It's really being able to structure your way there. So it's going to take a little time. And that's why start now. Don't wait. And in fact, it can be way longer than 5 years. Look, maybe you have a 20-year plan to retire. Great. But start now thinking about how that's going to happen for you.
Yeah, I agree. And I probably should mention, I am, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started and sold a bunch of businesses on my own. And now I have my podcast. I do a little consulting. I also am a licensed M&A advisor. So I'm a licensed broker. I work with a firm that not only helps owners sell, but also helps owners plan for sale. So happy to chat with anybody that wants to just talk about what that plan is. no obligation, just love talking and helping folks think through these problems.
When you were doing a deal with Kevin O'Leary, which by the way, I don't know if you guys know, audience members, but Anthony's he was on Shark Tank. Maybe talk a little bit about that. What was the product and how did you get involved?
Yeah, so one of the companies that I started and exited was a company called MC Squares, and we made reusable sticky notes and calendars and so basically things that you can take on and off of walls and your fridge and have and reuse them like a sticky note you would with a sticky note. I filmed on Shark Tank in 2019 and aired just after COVID hit in 2020. And yeah, I spent 4 years trying out over and over and over again, trying to get on Shark Tank. Just thought we had a consumer product. I thought it would be really good for the brand. It turned out it was. And it's almost indescribable what it's like to be on set and to prepare for that and then walk down that hallway and then have to remember your script without sounding like a complete idiot. Really hard to do. Sorry?
How nervous were you?
I've never been that nervous ever in my life. Have I been that nervous? And it's because you don't want to look like a fool in front of millions of people, right? It's just,
you just self-doubt.
You just don't want to look like a fool. You don't want to forget something. You don't want to get caught in a gotcha question. But once I got through the script, right? The script is the hardest part. It was for me. That memorization is just not my strength. So I rehearsed. But once I got through that and we got to the Q&A, it was a blast. I just had so much fun with the sharks. It was great.
If you haven't seen it, the jacket you wore that night was fun, right? It was pretty darn colorful. So all of it, how you look, how you stand out, the approach. What was you remember the first question that came at you?
They wanted to know so I wanted to talk about the product. I was there ready to talk about the product and our numbers. And I was just really prepared for those questions. And they wanted to talk about my backstory. Like they were more interested in who I was and what got me here than the product. It was kind of funny. So that doesn't always happen. It certainly happened for me.
So you end up doing a deal with Kevin O'Leary. Now you're going through this process. How long was the taping for you?
So I filmed. Generally speaking, they take about a half an hour to film and they cut it down to 15 minutes. I filmed for almost an hour.
Okay. And then they take all those clips and they put all that together to make the point you have.
Yep. That's exactly cool. Right.
That's cool.
And it's truly, it's true to life. So the sharks really never, that's the first time seeing you. In fact, it's a requirement that you have to sign that you've never spoken to one of the sharks on set before you go and pitch. They really want this to be the first time. And they do edit the show for time, but I will say I was disappointed they cut some stuff out, and I was really happy they cut some other stuff out. So it felt like it felt on the show. It felt true to life to me when we watched the episode.
Did you ever get the jacket back?
No. So I have a backup though. So I do have a jacket. I made 2 of them. And so, yeah, I still have it. And the jacket is based, so everybody knows, it was a black jacket where I painted sticky notes all over it. So it looked like a jacket full of sticky notes.
It was great. I mean, when you look at it, really does stand out. And I think Kevin O'Leary, part of the deal was he got the jacket to go with it.
Yeah, exactly right. No, and he made some television appearances for us wearing the jacket. So it was kind of fun.
So talk to me. So from there, how did he start to work with you? Does he have a team of people that start to work with you? How did that next section go?
Yeah. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I didn't need a lot of entrepreneurial help.
Okay.
I didn't need a lot of operational help. What we really wanted with Kevin and what we got from Kevin is a lot of social media and television awareness about the brand and about our product and about the company. He was phenomenal. He does have a team. His team is great. But really, we didn't ask that much of his team. We asked, we said, "Hey, Kevin, we're launching a new product. Why don't you get on the horn and let everybody know?" And he was just, I'm probably going to ruin his reputation, but he's actually a really good guy. He's really fun. He's a character. He's fun to work with. He really loves his entrepreneurs. So, he was just great to work with.
Does he go to the deal table with you when you're pitching a client or somebody?
He didn't with us.
Okay.
I know he's done that. We didn't ever get to the point where we needed him for that.
Did you guys end up in Costco, or how big did it end up?
No, we were exclusively an online. We were an online.
All
brand.
online.
Yeah,
okay.
all online.
Wow. Have you ever thought about going retail on it?
I'm no longer part of that, I'm not part of the company anymore. But I'm sure it's in the plans.
That's awesome. Hey, listen, that's one of those kind of special things, kind of different than you go through, and planning for it. I mean, how many times did you try out to get on there?
All in 5. Yeah, I tried out 5 different ways, and 5 different times. It's a process. Some people are invited to go. Some people try it once they're on. I had to be persistent.
Fair enough. Getting on, that's the whole gig, is just getting on there. All right, let's get back to
40,000 entrepreneurs try out to be on that show every year. And only 20 ink a deal with a shark. It's crazy. The numbers are crazy.
That's crazy, but fun. Look, I think that's what it means to be an entrepreneur. You've got to go try crazy ideas. You've got to push. You got to spend at least 5 or 7, 10% of your time every day doing some of those wild, crazy deals. While keep the structure, keep the business going, keep the company structured. Great, but at the same time, you got to have a couple of those really big ideas that pull you forward. That sound like something that'll get you there.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm excited about that. Entrepreneurs, look, if you're looking for a way to structure your retirement, I think it makes some great sense to start to look at the structure of your business itself. Let's kind of go back through those keys to structuring the leaving or walking out of your business that make the most sense, Anthony.
Yeah. So first thing you want to do is make sure your books are clean, and the systems are in place, so you're not a requirement. You probably do not want to tell your team that you're looking at selling. That can cause a lot of strife and anxiety with your organization. People are going to start looking for jobs because they think they're going to be out of a job if you sell, which is almost never the case. Usually buyers want the team, and not want to take over. You want to make sure you're diversifying revenue. And you need the profit. It needs to be, the books need to not be exotic. It needs to be as boring as possible. If you're finagling your books at all to squeeze out an extra, tax incentive or whatever, it's going to be harder for you to exit. Also, make sure your tax filings are up to date and as accurate as possible. It's really that simple. And then, it wouldn't hurt to have future plans. Like, here's what the next thing we're going to do. Here's how we're going to market the company going forward. Like, giving buyers an idea of how they can grow the business once they take over from you.
I think that's always a great idea. Like showing, hey, this is where your future is. You guys continue to grow this, and here's what you're getting now. But even more importantly, this is something that's really going to inspire give you something to motivate you, hope to grow bigger. And I think that's a lot of fun. Anthony, if people want to get a hold of you and have you come work with them, how do I get you as a coach to come work with an organization?
It's really so my podcast is just howtofounder.com. And if you go there, there's a link to my LinkedIn page. So just connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just at Anthony Franco on LinkedIn, or you can find that the information on the podcast and me on the How to Founder webpage.
We'll put all that down below like we always do. Anthony, I love having you on. It's always fun. Great having you on the show today. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Audience members, thank you very much. Last week was a blowout week. We had another crazy week with how many people did downloads across all the platforms. I'm really impressed. Thank you very much for that. if you guys could, there was a lot of you that still hadn't liked or subscribed yet. There were, like 65% of you got to the end of a podcast and weren't subscribers. So if you could take a second and do that now, I'd be grateful. It means the world to Alyssa and Joe and all of us in the background that find great guests like Anthony to come on the show. So if you could take a second and do that now, I'd be grateful. And as always, thanks for being here.